European Union.
Well, let me just ask Peter Bone, the porky pie.
Yeah, I mean, rerunning the referendum campaign is not relevant.
Hang on, it's about keeping
hang on,
the
you've had your say.
It's about keeping the
you know,
promise.
come on, let me have a say. Shouting down people doesn't really help. Article 50, this is what this is about. This is triggering the process of coming out of the EU. Once this Article 50 is passed both houses, an Act of Parliament, and the letter has been sent off, we are coming out of the EU. All the debate then afterwards is how we come out and what happens. This is a very simple thing today. We're implementing the wishes of the British people through a referendum that we are going to come out of the EU.
But it is quite legitimate, isn't it, for MPs to want to shape the terms on which we leave the EU. No one is directly saying we're not leaving. The argument is on what terms we leave.
And that's absolutely right for Parliament to discuss that in the months ahead. But this is about triggering the process. This is not about the negotiations. So the next week or so is very straightforward. We are implementing the British people's wish. We're going to come out of the EU. How that finally format, how it does, of course Parliament must debate that over the months ahead.
And Chuka Umunna, what do you say to those Labour MPs who say this is such an important issue, never mind the referendum, it will cause such hardship for my constituents, I have to oppose it?
Look, different people will take a different view on this. It's an emotive issue, but also different constituencies voted in different ways. And that's why it's important we have proper time to consider this. When we actually voted to join the European Union, the House of Commons spent 30 days discussing that. When we discussed Maastricht, we spent over 20 days discussing that. When we debated the Treaty of Lisbon, over 11 days. So for us only to get 5 days to properly debate this very, very important issue is totally insufficient. I'm sorry, I will not have this constant accusation that you're trying to relitigate the referendum when all we're simply trying to do with this £350 million commitment, and you may say it's a poor kick, we're trying to make sure that that is delivered on. That's not trying to relitigate the referendum, that is trying to make sure promises are kept.
The point is, the British people debated at great length this issue. There was the most wonderful democratic experiment in this country. Millions and millions of people took part in the vote and they made that decision. That's why the decision to come out has been made, and that's all that this bill is about, saying we are starting the process, we're telling the European Union we're coming out. All the other things that Chuck is talking about are for debate and discussion over the months ahead.
When do MPs get to vote on that then?
Well, of course we will vote. We will vote on it at the end, but there'll be an awful lot of votes in between. We've got the great
Can I just
repeal.
put this to you? What is the point on MPs having a vote after Mrs May has done the deal?
Well, we should have a vote afterwards, but obviously we'll have a vote, continuous votes all the way through. There's going to be a lot of votes on the Great Repeal Act. There's going to be lots of SIs we have to be. There's going to be all sorts. And of course, at any time the opposition can table an opposition day motion, which is debatable. The idea we're not going to have debates is laughable.
I think the key thing is we need a vote. I think it's perfectly legitimate for people who worry that what the Tory government is seeking to do is to turn Britain into Europe's sweatshop, to turn it into some grand tax haven for multinationals and very wealthy people. It's perfectly legitimate for people to seek to amend this bill to ensure that we get a withdrawal which actually works for people, that doesn't destroy their jobs and livelihoods, but is actually in the interests of everyone, not just the top 1%, which we know the Tory party is so famous for defending.
Slight gear change. Donald Trump, I think I'm right in saying you have signed this letter signed by 70 or so Labour MPs about Donald Trump's state visit.
Yes, look, there's a difference between whether he is allowed to come to the country and whether he is honoured with a state visit. I think it is totally and utterly unacceptable to be honouring a man who has peddled hate, misogyny, racism, Islamophobia during a campaign and now seems to be governing in that way. The idea that we should be honouring him with a state visit in the way that we've honoured people like Nelson Mandela, like the Pope, that is just outrageous to me.
Of course we should be welcoming the elected President of the United States, our closest ally, who we have a special relationship. Of course we should.
Honouring?
Of course we should. And we should have the President over here on a state visit. It's absolutely what should do. It's in our interest, and I think that's exactly the thing to do, and the Prime Minister's quite right to do it.
What does it say to our 3 million Muslim citizens? That we're honouring a man who peddles Islamophobia.
What about the Chinese president's visit? Was that wrong?
But with
was that wrong? Come on, come on. You can't have it both ways. Answer the question.
I will answer the question. The Chinese president hasn't sought
and all
to
the things the Chinese do.
If you let me finish the answer, the Chinese president hasn't sought to ban numerous people from coming to his country on the basis of their religion alone.
No, they're just quite happy to kill them in their country. I mean, the things that the Chinese... Are you really defending Chinese human rights?
I'm not
on this
defending...
programme?
I am not defending Chinese human rights.
Why weren't you protesting then about it?
I wasn't happy with the Chinese state visit.
I can't remember you being on television.
I wasn't happy with the Chinese state visit.
If it's a choice between having the President of China or the President of the United States, we should have the President of the United States every time.
Well, I disagree.
Okay. Donald Trump as divisive as Brexit. Thank you both very much indeed. We'll hear from David Davis shortly.
Thank you very much, Norman.